Hi everyone, I'm Brian Beneski and I'm here today with Elena Bertacci and Megan Mansfield Pryor to talk about Maine's product stewardship laws and extended producer responsibility, or EPR as it's often referred to. There are several products that benefit from a form of an extended producer responsibility program that addresses its end of life. Our goal is to explain what product stewardship and EPR is, how it works, and how it benefits Mainers who wish to dispose of troublesome products wisely. Next slide. So as with all waste management laws and programs, the goal is to move materials up the waste hierarchy, which can be seen here in the triangle. The highest on the hierarchy is reduction of the consumption or amount of a product. If we use packaging as an example, then products and its packaging would be designed to use the minimal amount of packaging as is necessary, and even rethink if packaging is necessary. This is then followed by reuse, and to keep with the packaging example, using a refillable package. The third tier on the hierarchy is recycling. Using packaging again as an example, designing packaging so that it is made of easily recyclable material and the packaging itself is easy to recycle once the consumer has opened the product. This is then followed by composting, waste to energy, and at the bottom, disposal in a landfill. Next slide. So what is product stewardship? Product stewardship is the act of minimizing the impacts of a product throughout all life cycle stages. Product stewardship can be voluntary or it can be made mandatory for certain products through law. Extended producer responsibility, or EPR, places the obligation of managing a product reaching the end of its life onto the manufacturer or supplier of that product. Putting the end of life responsibility of a product onto that product's manufacturer can prevent the disconnect between a product's creation and its requirements for disposal. Next slide. EPR can work for waste materials or consumer products that are difficult to manage due to the product's characteristics. It can do this by providing financial incentives that inevitably make the product less toxic or easier to recycle. When the cost of end-of-life management is at the beginning of the product's life cycle, then that should assure that appropriate resources and infrastructure are available to manage the disposal of the product and that cost doesn't fall onto taxpayers. Next slide. Maine has several EPR programs to provide assistance to Mainers for managing waste products that shouldn't be mixed with everyday trash or recycling. As these programs are funded by the product's manufacturer, they provide free or low-cost options to manage this material. This assures the item is handled appropriately and reduces the risk of toxins or litter released into the environment. They also reduce the risk of issues cropping up if disposed of incorrectly, recycle the item appropriately, and may even increase the possibility of an item's reuse. Next slide. Several criteria are used when determining if a product would benefit from an EPR program. The first is whether or not the product contains toxics that pose a health or environmental hazard if improperly managed. The second is if it will reduce the financial burden on municipalities and taxpayers by reducing costs for managing the product. An evaluation of any voluntary program that exists would also be conducted, as well as considering programs in other countries. And of course, determining whether the program would increase the recovery of the product. Next slide. Financial incentives will help a program succeed. Entities collecting products benefit directly through payments to cover their costs. Businesses can benefit as participation can increase customer flow to the store and a customer appreciation of providing a collection point for an item. Financial incentives for recovering recyclable material will keep that material out of the trash. Incentives for product design will help through setting minimum requirements for reduced toxicity and increased recyclability. And eco-modulated fees can encourage manufacturers to go beyond just the minimum requirements and make an even more eco-friendly product. Next slide. Each year, the department produces an annual report outlining the results of the existing programs and any proposals for new EPR programs. The report is posted on the department's website by January 16th of each year for public review and for accepting any public comments to be added. On February 15th, the comments are added to the report and the report is submitted to the legislature. Next slide. These products currently have stewardship laws or some type of end-of-life or product take-back mandate. Beverage containers under the bottle bill, e-waste, certain types of consumer batteries, cell phones, mercury-containing light bulbs, mercury-containing auto switches, mercury thermostats, and architectural paint. We'll now briefly discuss each one. Next slide. The Maine Bottle Bill program began in 1978 and was one of the first redemption-style programs in the country. Its original intent was to address litter, as it is stated in the law's purpose. The legislature finds that beverage containers are a major source of non-degradable litter and solid waste in the state, and disposal of this litter constitute a great financial burden for the citizens. It has since morphed into not only a litter reduction program, but also a program to capture these beverage containers for recycling. Manufacturers or distributors of beverages collect a 5-cent deposit for each container from the retailer. The retailer collects a 5-cent deposit from the customer at the time of sale. The customer recovers this deposit when the container is returned to a redemption center. The redemption center receives the deposit plus an additional fee charged to the manufacturers or distributors to cover the handling costs of recovering the container. In addition to getting litter off the sides of the road, as any drive through a non-bottle bill state will show, the redemption program has increased recycling rates of beverage containers. National recycling recovery rates for containers average about 35%, but Maine has an estimated recycling recovery rate of between 75 and 85%. Next slide.
Maine's electronic waste law is designed to facilitate the recycling of printers, gaming devices, and display screens. The category of printers includes everything from a label printer to a 3D printer, multifunctional printers, anything under 100 pounds. Gaming devices is similarly broad. Game Boys, Xboxes. The new product there is virtual reality headsets. All of those are included. And then display screens is pretty straightforward. Monitors, televisions, tablets, portable DVD players, digital picture frames, anything with a screen of over 4-inch diagonal, just about. The way the program works is residents, K-12 schools, small nonprofits with under 100 employees in Maine, small businesses with under 100 employees in Maine can drop off these electronics at a collection site. Most collection sites are municipal transfer stations. If for some reason your municipality doesn't participate or charges too much, there are some alternative collection sites at retail locations and then a couple sites run by recyclers that are available in select locations. So you can get in touch with the department if you're having trouble recycling through your transfer station. Those entities usually take electronics for free or low cost because they can get rid of them for free. But there is no requirement. They can charge with whatever they feel is fit to cover the cost of collection. And then the manufacturers pay for the recycling of those. And I should also note that you can often recycle other electronics as well. It's just the manufacturers won't pay for those, so there may be a charge associated with that. These electronics have a lot of metals. They're considered very relatively important to recycle. They also can have batteries that can be dangerous if handled incorrectly. So these should really be sent down the proper channels. Go ahead, Megan.
Great. And speaking of batteries, I'm going to talk about the rechargeable battery program here. We do have a law that requires manufacturers to help pay, set up an infrastructure and pay to recycle nickel, cadmium, and small sealed lead acid batteries. The program in Maine is run by Call to Recycle, and they accept a much wider range of rechargeable batteries than they're required to do by law. And we have a lot of municipal transfer stations and certain national retail stores that serve as voluntary take-back collection sites for these, where you can drop your batteries off for free. There is the website is call2recycle.org, and you can go there and put your zip code in and find all the locations near you. And if you're having trouble with that, you can contact the department for help. There are a lot of different battery chemistries out there, so there is some speculation that confusion over the different battery types might lead to disposal of batteries that could be recycled for free through these programs. So any rechargeable batteries can be taken back to them for free, these collection sites. And it's very, very important with batteries that they don't end up in the wrong place. A small rechargeable lithium-ion battery that's put in the trash or a regular household recycling bin could end up causing a fire or an explosion and seriously harming someone or damaging equipment. So it's crucial that these get taken back to the proper place, and it's free to do so. Residents are strongly encouraged to recycle these batteries, and businesses are required by law to do so.
Okay, lead acid batteries, these are your regular car batteries. Disposal is banned, which isn't much of a problem because they are highly recyclable. This is actually the product that is considered most widely recycled in the United States. More than 99% of these are recycled, and they actually get made into new lead acid batteries, which is nice. It's not downcycled, they're made into new batteries. So the way the program works, any person, retailer or wholesaler selling batteries should accept a used battery at the time of sale. If they don't receive a used battery at the time of sale, they need to charge a $10 deposit. And the idea being that that person who bought the battery without bringing back their old battery should be bringing back that battery. If you bring back that battery as the buyer, if you bring back that battery within 30 days, you'll get your $10 back. There should be notice on the retailer's storefront discussing the law. We don't often hear about problems with this, but as with anything else, if you are having trouble with this, please be in touch. Oh, cell phones. This is another retailer collection program. No deposit on this one and no requirement for sale. Disposal of cell phones is banned. That's because one, they have the batteries, embedded batteries that Megan was just talking about that can be dangerous if not handled properly. They also are full of valuable metals, full of these critical materials that the Department of Energy has identified as being very necessary for a transition to a green energy. So any retailer that's selling cell phones should be accepting cell phones for recycling at no cost. You don't have to buy a cell phone to recycle one. There should be a sign noting that this recycling can happen and that it is free. And you can be sure that they will get recycled because they are a fairly valuable resource. And yes, if you know of retailers that aren't doing this, please let us know. Next slide, Megan.
Okay, great. So we also have take-back programs for mercury thermostats and auto switches, and the programs work similarly, which is why we grouped them together. In both cases, the manufacturers have to pay to recycle the materials, and they also pay a financial incentive for collection. Each of these devices, whether it's an auto switch or a thermostat, they have a glass ampule of mercury that it's a significant amount of mercury. It might seem like a small amount, but when it's released into the environment, which Elena is going to talk about a little bit more, it can be very dangerous. So anyone in Maine who has a mercury thermostat is eligible to receive a $5 incentive for every mercury thermostat that they turn in for recycling. We have a voluntary collection system for this. It's a lot of hardware stores that participate to take thermostats back. And oftentimes they'll give you a coupon for $5 if you bring in a thermostat, or if you bring in more, you can get more. We also have wholesalers and some contractors throughout the state that participate in the program, and they operate a little differently. They tend to have larger quantities coming in, so they'll give, if somebody brings in 10 thermostats, they'll give them a form to fill out, and they mail those in for recycling, and then the person gets mailed back a check for the number of thermostats they turned in. Maine scrap recyclers and vehicle dismantlers get a $4 incentive for every mercury auto switch that they collect. And with both programs, any collection site that is participating to take the materials back will receive all the supplies that they need to safely store and ship those materials based on the requirements for mercury-containing devices, and to process the reimbursements for the financial reimbursements for those. We also have a stewardship program for mercury lamps in Maine. The cost of this program are internalized by the mercury lamp manufacturer, so there's no fee when you go to buy a mercury lamp that helps cover the cost. It's free to recycle your mercury lamps at any participating collection site, and anyone can recycle at any drop-off point. They can recycle unlimited CFLs, the little curly Q bulbs like what's shown in the picture there, and up to 10 other kinds of mercury containing lamps. So it could be a linear tube, black light, a high intensity discharge light, ultraviolet, or neon. We do have more examples of different lamps that contain mercury, but it might be also there's some flashlight bulbs or auto headlights that contain mercury. So any kind of bulb, as long as if it contains mercury, can be recycled for free through this program. We have a lot of municipal transfer stations that participate in this collection program, and the manufacturers provide all the materials they need to store and ship those lamps out for recycling, so the municipality doesn't have to pay for the program. And we also have a lot of retail stores, primarily hardware stores, that also participate in this program voluntarily. And in addition to that, there are separate programs run by some of the big box stores like Lowe's and Home Depot. They run their own independent program to take these bulbs back for free. Okay, Elena.
So a little bit more on mercury laws. The only products that you're going to really see that are consumer products that are sold in Maine these days that have mercury are the light bulbs. Everything else has basically been banned. And the reason being that mercury is very dangerous. I know I often talk to people who used to play with it as a kid and it was on their hand and it doesn't seem like a big deal. And I think the key thing to understand is that elemental mercury, which is that silver liquid, is not super harmful to humans in that form. What happens is it gets released into the environment and bacteria change it into something called methyl mercury, which is very harmful, even in very small quantities. It bioaccumulates, it does awful things to the human nervous system. So that's what we're worried about here, and why it's really important to take care of your mercury products. So chemical mercury hasn't been used in chemistry classes in schools since 2001, I believe. Sales of elemental mercury are limited to medical, dental amalgam, and research purposes. And then most other devices have been banned. And these bans went into effect in 2006. So if you have products, I'll give you a list in just a second, that were bought before 2006. They may have these mercury ampules that Megan was discussing, or mercury in other forms. So the most common products are gas cooking ranges, and this is associated with the automatic gas shutoff valve. The pilot light goes out, the gas shuts off. That's a mercury switch that makes sure that gas shuts off in those old devices. Well pumps and sump pumps, anything that's turning on and off as the level of a liquid moves, that may have a mercury switch. Tilt switches, so anything that turns on when you flip it up, like a chest freezer light or a car hood light, car trunk light, those are common places for mercury switches. And then a lot of measuring devices, thermometers, thermometers, blood pressure cuffs, anything that's measuring the pressure of a gas or a liquid may have mercury in it. And so if you have some of these older products pre-2006, when you bring them to your transfer station, just alert someone at the transfer station, say, you know, this may have mercury in it, just so they can pay special attention and double check. Megan mentioned the lamps. The requirement to start labeling lamps also came into place in the early 2000s. So any of your lamps that have mercury in them that were bought after that time should say HG on them. And that's how you know that they're mercury lamp and can be moved through that program that Megan just mentioned. And then finally, the other law the legislature put into place was just a law informing DEP. So anyone who's selling a mercury product into Maine needs to tell us about it. And that's how we know that it's mostly just lamps. So yeah, just be careful about that mercury, please.
Great. So the last current program I'm going to talk about is the architectural paint program. This is our newest stewardship program and was put into place in 2015. And this one is funded by a small fee on the sales of oil-based and latex paint. So if you go to the store and you're buying paint and certain other architectural coatings like stains, then there's a small fee and that funds this program. But you can recycle any liquid paint through this program, even if it's an older container, as long as it's in its original container and marked with a label, it can be recycled through this program. The other thing worth noting about that is that for many years, we were telling people to dry out their paint, put kitty litter in it, the latex paint anyway, and throw it away. But with this program, it's really important that the paint is in liquid form to be recycled. You can't recycle the paint once kitty litter's been added. So if you have old unwanted paint, you want to just keep it in good condition and bring it into one of the take back places, and there's no charge to do that. Brands and manufacturers that sell paint in Maine now register with the state, and we have a voluntary collection system for this as well. So any municipal transfer station can participate to be a voluntary take back for this, as well as retail stores. We have a lot of hardware stores that participate as collection sites, as well as some of the paint stores like the Sherwin-Williams. And we've also heard good feedback from some of the stores that run the program that they've seen increased business because people come in to drop off paint and they end up buying something while they're in there. So there can be a positive benefit for the retail stores that participate too. The last thing about this program that we haven't seen widely used, which would be great to see more sites doing, is that the collection sites can contract with Paint Care and offer free used paint for reuse. So if there's a can of paint that's still in really good condition, somebody can come in and just take that and use it for free. This might work particularly well at a transfer station. And then the collection site can still receive reimbursement for that paint at a rate of $1.60 per gallon. So if that's something of interest, Paint Care has more information on their website, paintcare.org, or if you contact the department, we'd be happy to provide more information about that option or the program as well. Brian?
Thanks, Megan. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce two new EPR laws. The Maine legislature recently passed a law which initiated a pharmaceutical take-back program for unused or unwanted drugs. Drug manufacturers are now required to run or participate in a department-approved stewardship program for collecting unwanted prescription and non-prescription drugs. This program should be effective by the summer of 2022. Pharmaceutical manufacturers, summer 23, sorry about that. Pharmaceutical manufacturers must submit draft stewardship program plans to the department by July 1st, 2022, and the department has 120 days to approve or reject a plan. All Maine pharmacies must participate in a stewardship program. All mail order pharmacies must provide mailback envelopes to customers for unused drugs upon request. Information outlining the take-back program must also be provided to customers upon picking up their prescriptions through posted signs and brochures. Next slide, please. In addition to the pharmaceutical take-back program, the Maine legislature also passed a law which would implement stewardship for packaging. This law was passed in order to incentivize the reduction of and toxicity of packaging, increase packaging recycling, and provide funding for municipalities for handling the costs of packaging material. Producers of products will pay into a fund based on the amount of and the recyclability of packaging associated with their products. This fund will then be used to reimburse municipalities for recycling and waste management costs. Funds will also be available to make investments into recycling infrastructure and in education and outreach efforts to assist Mainers understand how to recycle packaging. Next slide. This chart provides an outline of the flow of funds for the program. Producers will pay a fee based on the cost of managing their packaging material. The fee will also incentivize volume reduction, toxicity reduction, and increased recyclability of the packaging. The fund will be managed by a stewardship organization that will be selected by the department following a competitive bid process. Although the fund will be managed by the stewardship organization, the department will provide oversight of the stewardship organization and include stakeholder input. The stewardship organization will disperse funds to participating municipalities that recover readily recyclable material. These funds will be based on the median per ton cost of handling packaging material. Funds not used for municipal handling costs will be available for infrastructure improvement and for education and outreach. The stewardship organization will determine these needs through audits and stakeholder input and make proposals for these investments for approval by the department. Next slide. The rollout for this program will be quite lengthy due to the anticipated extensive rulemaking process. The law only established the framework of the program, and many details will still need to be ironed out in rule. Department staff for program development will be available in July of 2022. After a lengthy stakeholder engagement process and rule review, the rules are anticipated to be completed and approved by 2025. A stewardship organization is anticipated to be selected in 2026 and first municipal payments in 2027. Next slide. Although not product stewardship programs per se, the stewardship unit does provide administration of the plastic bag reduction law and the disposable food service container law, which are designed to reduce single-use plastics. And in an effort to encourage use of reusable bags, the bag reduction law bans single-use plastic carryout bags and establishes a fee for paper and reusable bags. The disposable food service container laws bans the use of polystyrene food service containers and serviceware, as there is no program for recycling styrene foam containers. It includes all public eating arenas, not just restaurants, but does exempt hospitals and Meals on Wheels programs. Next slide. In summary, Maine EPR programs are a resource for you to assist with hard to manage items. We encourage you to know your local recycling drop-off points and share that information with others. The EPR programs allow you to recycle several hard to dispose of items, including certain electronic devices, mercury-containing lamps and thermostats, oil and latex paint, and rechargeable batteries. Although the programs provide disposal of these items for free, some collection sites for electronics may still charge a fee to cover their own costs for operating that collection location. Next slide. The contact staff for each individual program can be seen here. Please reach out to staff with any questions you have regarding these programs. And thank you very much.
Thank you.